We know there are many choices in internet radio, and the staff and host of LA Talk Live would like to thank you for choosing the internet's hottest destination for the most eclectic sound and invigorating talk. This is LA Talk Live. We are more than just talk.
Welcome, coming to you live from the studios of LA Talk Live in sunny Los Angeles, California. This is Alayna's Beauty Talk and more, and I'm your host, Alayna. We're here to talk about beauty and more in all its expressions every Wednesday at noon Pacific time. So stay tuned. We'll be right back. This is Alayna's Beauty Talk and more on LA Talk Live. We're more than just talk.
Ended up with my heart and soul. About time that you know. If you just believe and see like I see, you'll know that the world is yours to own. Just follow my lead beyond material things. It's time to let you know you're better than beautiful. You're better.
It started out like a totally normal day.
I love you.
I mean, I guess I was a little sweaty and I was definitely sore. I thought I had gas. Turns out I was having a heart attack. Heart disease is the #1 killer of American women. So now I take care of myself and tell the other women in my life to do the same. Make it your mission to save your life and the lives of the women you love. Find out more from the American Heart Association at goredforwomen.org.
Saturday, February 28th from 10 a.m. to 9 p.m. Indigenous Rhythms presents the Culture Fest 2015 at the famous Simply Wholesome Restaurant located at 4508 Slauson Avenue on the corner of Slauson and Overhill. Enjoy live performances by X-Clan, Mad Lion, Medusa, General Job Mikey, and much more, like vendors and delicious food served all day by Simply Wholesome Restaurant. The Culture Fest 2015, sponsored by Martin Cadillac, California Ticketmasters, and Undeniable Inc. For more information, go to indigenousrhythms.com.
Hi, this is Alan Azoulay with Azoulay Media Productions. I'm really excited to bring you Groove to the 70s, an indoor live concert event playing Saturday, March 7th, 2015, featuring Smooth Sounds of Santana and Creedence Relive, two of the best tribute bands in America. Tickets are only $29, part of which will benefit Honorable Recharge, a wonderful foundation, nonprofit assisting combat veterans. Get your tickets now at latalklive.com or Facebook 70s Groovin'. And stick around for the after party with our LA Talk Live DJs Veneric Marshall and Mario Alvarado, spinning great tunes that will take you back. And check out the option to purchase a VIP ticket for a vet. So come to the Old World Village, conveniently located just off the 405 freeway and Beach Boulevard in Huntington Beach for this memorable evening. Bring your friends or that special someone. I hope to see you there.
Go through my mind like a shooting star. Wish I could pause you like DVR.
Welcome back to Alayna's Beauty Talk and more. This is going to be a really amazing show. I have one new friend, and she brought her amazing husband. We've been trying to put this show together for a little while. And Richard, also my producer, is going to be joining us almost the whole show today because it was a very funny story. He ended up knowing them from years and years ago, so he's just as excited as I am to have him in our studio today. So sitting next to me is Terry Tilton Stewart, and sitting next to her is her very famous husband, who is a guitar player, a producer, a director. I mean, he just gave me a list. He's played with everybody. I mean, it must have been 10, 20 pages long of who he's played with. So he has tons of stories to tell us. Also, this is actually the grandma show. Grandma wears makeup, and Terry and all of us are in that age. So it's, we're here to inspire people to still keep working, still keep writing, still keep trying to make this a better world. And that's going to be a big part of our show, never to stop trying to enhance ourselves, enhance the world. I mean, it's very important for us to be active. And I want to talk a little bit about Jimmy had a stroke 6 years ago, and he looks amazing, and he's doing amazing. And he's working hard to keep it up. I mean, he really even walked up the stairs. I'm so proud of him. So it's great. So welcome both to the show.
Well, thank you so much.
Thank you for having us on, and just a side note, Jimmy is a Jazz Hall of Famer as well.
Okay, so those are things you have to come up to the mic. Those are things you have to fill me in on. I don't know every little detail, so you don't leave anything out.
He's had quite a long career. It's hard to keep track, even for me. So sometimes, Jimmy, it's like, I did that? When? So we really appreciate you having us on the show. And for Richard, this is just awesome to have this opportunity together. It's been a long time we've known each other, and what fun. So we're going to have some fun today.
You want to tell the story, Richard?
Yeah, let me take a little time out. I was just doing some camera work back here. As you can tell, it's pretty busy. This is like flying a plane. I got to keep my eyes on all the controls and stuff to make it look and sound good. But first of all, I want to welcome you both to the show.
Yay!
Alayna's
Thank you,
Talking
Richard.
More. It's been a lot of years since Alayna and I co-hosted a show together. It all started in my downstairs living room, or bedroom rather, where I came up with this idea, having been in radio before. Let me try my hand at internet broadcasting, and it's worked out. We're going on 6 years now as a broadcast network. We're all over the place. We're on all types of apps. You can watch us. You can listen. There's no excuse not to tune in every Wednesday at noon Pacific for Alayna's Beauty Talking More. But I'm very happy to join you on the show because you brought in some friends of mine who I know from many, many years ago. I almost want to count 20, probably more like 15, somewhere in that range.
Closer, Richard. That was closer.
Yeah, right somewhere in there. And when I met them, I was in a different world. I'm a serial entrepreneur. For many of you who tune into my show that I've had over the years, one of them being an entrepreneur show, I always encourage it. And I used to own a computer business up in Hollywood. And Terry came in one day with her Mac, and we were always happy to see Mac users come into the store because in 2000,
Well, I started coming to you in 2002.
2007. No, it's 2007 through. No, is that right?
No.
2001 through 2005. Oh my God, it's been that long.
I think I came to you in 2002.
1997 to 2002. So you came before that. But anyway, I was in a computer store called Cafe Mac. Terry came in. I was always happy to see Mac users because in 1997, they were saying that Apple was going to go out of business. How ridiculous does that sound today, right? And people were telling me, man, you better start fixing PCs in here. I'm like, I'm not going to do it. I'm dedicated to Mac and Apple. And Terry had a Mac, and later she introduced me to her famous husband, Jimmy Stewart. I'm like, that Jimmy Stewart? She's like, no, not that Jimmy Stewart, the other great Jimmy Stewart. He later came in, and of course, being a world-renowned musician and jazz guitarist, he also was on the Mac platform. I got a chance to spend lots of time working on their equipment, getting to know them very well as professionals, and even got a chance to go up and do some work in your homes. And you've always been very gracious and great people to me. So when Terry came in, let me give you a round of applause for that. When Terry came in some weeks back, we looked at each other like, wow, you look familiar. I'm like, wow, so do you. And then she introduced herself. I'm like, and I think you mentioned that your husband was in jazz. I'm like, wait a minute, is his name Jimmy Stewart? She's like, yeah. I'm like, Terry, how you doing? It's been so long. You look the same, so does Jim. And I was so excited because not only was I impressed by Jimmy's ability as a jazz musician, I'm a jazz lover myself, but also Jimmy had a hell of a long ball, meaning that he was the golfing long ball champion more than 1 year in a row. Is that right, Jim?
Yes.
Absolutely.
This is of various tournaments. Excuse the voice a little, Richard.
That's all right. It sounds
a little
good,
raspy.
actually,
Well,
Jim.
thank
Yeah.
you very much.
Very sexy.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Hey.
Might get you to sing a little Sam Cooke for us a little later on.
Oh,
in
that'd
the
be
show.
nice.
But the fact is, Jim had this incredible ability to hit the ball off the tee. And for many novice golfers like myself who never mastered that, Jim, even with the instructions you gave me in Cafe Mac, that's one of the toughest things. You know, they say you drive for show but putt for dough. But for me, putting was easier than driving, and I never could get the grasp of that. Jim and I are about the same size. We're not Charles Barkley-sized men who can't hit the ball at all. Jim's about the size of me, and so he gave me the encouragement as a man like 5'9", 5'8", depending on whether I'm wearing my heels or not, that I too could drive the ball. How many yards in those days, Jim, did you hold the record
270.
for? Amazing. And now, of course, they're hitting it 300, 350, stuff like that.
Right.
But the equipment's different. You did it with the good gear. They made it so much easier with all these huge golf club heads and stuff. I don't want to get off track. I've
But
always
that's
loved
important.
you guys.
That's a
Yeah.
part of his career.
I've always loved you guys, and especially Jim, because you would come to our office on Sunset Boulevard in Hollywood and bring in your Mac. That meant business and commerce for us, so we really appreciated that. But also, you were always so gracious to take time out to give us some instructions right there in Cafe Mac on how to better drive the ball.
Right.
I just didn't spend enough time with you. That's all it was.
Well, we'll have to make up for lost time.
Yes,
Richard.
indeed. Now, Terry, man, she is a powerhouse in and of herself. I'd like to defer to her now to tell her story because, first of all, I didn't even know that you were in, may I say, the psychic sciences or the psychic arts? The psychic arts and sciences. I think it's a little bit of both. But also, you have an extensive career in the music industry as well.
I do.
Okay, come
Come
up to
closer
the
to your
mic.
Yeah, I need you
I
to
started
lean in.
my management company in 1984, and it was really because of this man over here who came into my life. And, it was just, you hear the stories of artists, and as I call them, creatives. And most of the time, their forte is not in the business side or handling the business side well because they're busy doing what they do creatively and just bringing joy to our hearts and our world with their music. So, right about the same time, the Grammys had snubbed jazz, and out of that was born the American Academy of Jazz, the first ever jazz academy to be given birth by Leonard Feather, who was a world-renowned jazz critic, and Mel Torme. And we got in on the ground level of that, and before I could blink an eye, I was membership director, then on their board of directors, and, off recruiting members, et cetera, et cetera.
Is that still going now?
No, unfortunately, it had 6 short years, but it propelled me into this incredible world of jazz and jazz non-for-profits. So I, all of a sudden found myself being a handful of women at that time doing what I was doing in jazz and management. And so Jimmy was my first client, and he taught me a lot, and I learned along the way. I was blessed to have a few amazing mentors. Helen Keane, who is the only woman really at the top of her game doing that, both as a producer for Bill Evans and manager, taught me a lot, and Bill Trout, who was also a great mentor to me. So, here we are 30 years later, the music industry kind of fell on its head, and I decided to continue using my management skills, working with other talent, and then also delving into my passions, which are filmmaking and documentaries, of which I'm very excited. Just released my first producing foray into the documentary film world. It's called Torah Codes Into Darkness. Our DVD is right here.
And you're losing your headphones.
Yeah, we are getting starting to get traction. We're on Amazon. My producing partner Rick Shaw is doing numerous radio interviews. He's been on with George Norrie twice. We actually did had our experts do some tables on George Norrie to see if he appeared in the Torah. And
but you're not really religious.
I am not a religious person. I am a spiritual person, which comes to where Richard was talking about. I'm also an intuitive, and have had that gift since I was a child, and very blessed to be working with some amazing people in that arena. And it's all about helping people. It's all about being supportive.
And that's
of
what this
people.
show is all about, helping people.
So,
And I think that speaks to why you have such longevity in the industry, the both of you.
Yes.
That you proceed with the notion of helping people. Terry, you said something to me when you were here on Alayna's Beauty Talking More when she had the psychic show that I've been repeating both to myself in the mornings and through the tough times and to other people to encourage them, and that is you're about to have a great pinch me moment in your very near future. Just keep doing what you're doing. I say to myself, well, that's why I keep doing it, because I know it's coming. But when you said that to me, it gave me the encouragement. Like I said, sometimes when it gets tough and the money gets tight and, you know, you have conflicts of interest, we don't have a lot of that here. We're pretty stable and solid. But still in all, that made me feel very encouraged moving on to the future and looking into 2015, being an intuitive as you are. So this is this is the first experience of that pinch me moment, and that I've got you and the great Jimmy Stewart back in the studio with us. So this is where the pinch me moment starts, I gather.
well, we're thrilled, and you know, it's great when you know that you can. You know, it's so often, and I channel, so things come through. I give out the information. And most
you don't
of the time,
even remember it.
It's gone into the ether. So it's exciting for me when somebody, like what you just said, comes back and says, this really mattered to me, and as a result of it, it's made a difference, or it's making a difference. That's amazing.
I do
That
have
is
another
just
story
amazing.
for you. You know, I trained Nathan Singer, and Merle was at my birthday with you, and she's still talking about how you channeled her brother, and she had forgotten all about that. That was so important to her to remember
wow.
that.
And
It was so weird. You had never met her husband, and all of a sudden, out of the blue, they were sitting across. She goes, "Who's Nathan?" I mean, you never even met Merle before, I don't think.
No.
And Merle just looked like astonished. She said, "That's my husband." It was amazing.
It's thank you. I mean, I love hearing these stories because we never know, you know, if it makes sense or not. And oftentimes we tell people things they don't necessarily want to hear, but it's what's coming
And
through.
sometimes things don't happen for 5 years.
True. It's hard to base time.
It's hard to
So,
base time.
You know, it's all exciting, and I'm also very passionate about my non-for-profits. I'm on the board of directors for Hollywood PAL, which is a police activities league, and I'm working on a documentary film I want to do about that organization. And truly,
Do you ever stop?
No, not really. Do I stop, Jimmy?
No,
Okay.
Jimmy, is that a good thing?
that's a good thing.
Right.
I don't stop myself.
Exactly.
I mean, that's what we want to tell people that are in there. I don't know. You said from 50. I would say from 50s up, because people all of a sudden they think they're 50, they're old, they want to retire. They don't have that drive anymore, and I think you always have to have a drive.
You know, I got to tell you that you do not realize this until you are at that age, but when they say youth is wasted on the young,
Oh, my.
and you don't get it until you're old enough to understand it, it's true, because when you're young, you think you can conquer anything, do anything. You believe that you know it all, when indeed you've barely tapped the surface of life experience. And so we don't learn that or know that till we're old enough to go through the good times, the bad times, the rough times, and
both of you, I mean, you're a survivor of breast cancer.
absolutely.
Jimmy's a survivor of a stroke. I mean, those are what's really interesting to me, because we have people listening all ages. Either they have gone through it themselves, or their mom, or their grandma, somebody very close to them. And they need to hear that you survive, you go on, and you're very productive.
As I say, life happens and then you deal with it. And for Jimmy, being this amazing, brilliant, performer, guitarist, I mean, our home was filled with music day and
golfer.
night. And golfer, yes.
Yeah.
The golf club was swinging in our house all the time, too. But
Did you break anything?
No.
Nope, never. Something that Jimmy's been working on for a long time, which I just, every time I talk about it, I get excited about it and keep nudging him. It's like, we got to get more, got to get this done. is a book and hopefully a documentary as well that we're working on called Music at Midnight. And Jimmy's career has been amazing, and it's taken him incredible places. He started professionally in the 50s as a very young man. At 19, became the youngest musical director
Closer to that mic.
there was for an actress-singer by the name of Ginny Sims. But Music at Midnight, the way I like to describe it, is Jimmy as the trip master taking you on this amazing magical music tour from the 50s to the 90s, backstage, sitting in on the conversations that were had in the green room, hanging out at the sessions that happened after the sessions. He was part of the production team of the making of Thriller. Now, how many guys do you know that were in the studio with Michael Jackson and Quincy Jones, and Bruce
Were you
Swedien, the
there,
engineer?
You were there too.
No, I wasn't there. That was
You were
before me.
Oh, okay.
But to have been a part of truly what changed and made musical history at that time.
Do you remember that very vividly, Jimmy?
Certainly I do. What Quincy Jones told me, he says, we don't want Michael to go for bass bait. They were thinking of their end user, the person who's going to buy the recording. And I said, what do you mean bass bait? That was one of his terms. Bass bait means older women.
Ah.
I hope the women don't get mad at me, but I thought it was a great term, bass bait.
I never
because
heard that.
Fisherman always wants to go for the largemouth bass.
Bass bait. I get it now. Okay.
Got it?
Wow.
All right, you comment on that. You're thinking.
Can we share the Yentikov story?
No, I don't think that's a good idea.
Okay.
But in the beginning, Thriller almost didn't come out at all. I was sitting there one day, and they had like a school chair to write, so I could write notes, which I needed to do, and they sat me next to Yentikov from the record company.
He was president then of CBS Records.
Right. He really didn't care for the direction that Michael was going in. But here again is when true creativity can rule out. So he called Quincy into the studio, and he wanted to have a skull session with him, is what I called it. So I'm hearing him talking to him, and I said, Bruce Swedien, who's a great recordist, I said, Bruce, can you crack that microphone so I can hear what they're saying? And he said, I can't do that. So after the meeting, Quincy comes in, and he always had a nickname for us all. He used to call me Stuart, Stu, Jimmy, James. I never knew what he was going to call me. But with Bruce, he always called him Bruce. And Bruce was a big Swedish man who loved horses and all that. So anyway, when he came back in, Quincy looks at Bruce and he says,
Slim.
He says, I'm now going to call you Slim. And Bruce looks at him and says, why? He says, they didn't like the recording. They didn't like the takes. They didn't like the way we're going. I thought that was very interesting.
He says, Slim, new rule.
Right.
Never play an unfinished product for an idiot.
What was meant by that?
Well, the fact that
the guy just didn't get it.
He was playing they were playing the rough tracks, and you know what that is, being in radio and so on, and it just, and he didn't like the direction and was prepared to not put the album out. So can you imagine musical history without Thriller?
Not at all. I tell you, I danced up a storm off Thriller in the discos back in those days. I had a good time dancing to Billie Jean. That was one of the greatest songs in the clubs in that time. It would get everybody up to dance. And
excuse me, Richard, can I tell you the original title of that was Not My Lover. Not My Lover.
Makes sense, because it certainly is in the lyrics.
But Quincy said, we're going to change it to Billie Jean. Everybody said, Billie Jean's a Southern name. You're going to change the title to Billie Jean? That's how great a creative force Quincy Jones is.
Indeed he was. Indeed he still is, as a matter of fact.
Absolutely.
When you think of... Yeah, come a little closer to the mic,
yes,
Jim.
Got it?
Yep. When you think of the impact that song had, not just on Michael Jackson's career, but on the country, one of the major crossover hits of its time as well, it was almost unifying in its appeal throughout the country. Both black, white, brown, everybody loved that album. It is still the number one selling album in the history of music. Is that correct?
Yes, I believe
Amazing.
so.
Yeah. Now, we've got 5 minutes before the break. I want to start just a little bit, and Alayna, if you don't mind, I wanted to ask Jim this.
I'm starting to cough, so
Jim,
be my guest.
How did it all get started for you? In case I missed that, like as a kid, what made you pick up the guitar the very first time?
Well, the first time my parents didn't want me to pick it up. They said their friends called it a starvation box.
Aha. I think some musicians still do call it that, probably.
Probably, yeah.
Playing on Sunset Boulevard.
That was
Hollywood
because of country music and so on. They didn't think that was big and going to make enough money to live on. So they put me on piano first, Richard. So I got my degree in piano as a young boy in the state of California. They offered piano, and they also gave you a certificate for completing the course. You had to sight read. You had to play a concert, which I was shaking at. Not that I couldn't play it, but I was afraid I was going to forget something.
And when he started piano, that was at the age of 4.
Wow. Great foundation for learning the guitar, I understand.
Great foundation for learning frequencies, which is what I call music. I call it frequencies. Frequencies make us feel differently.
Absolutely right. The thing with me in music, I played around with a few of them. I got a chance to play around with a keyboard, a piano, but not long enough to grasp it. Then I was passed a saxophone and could play certain songs wrote. My Favorite Things was one of my favorite songs, and I could always play that. And a little bit, maybe a few other instruments. But the thing I always am fascinated about when it comes to musician is the concept of timing. And prior to going live, we played a commercial, and you were counting the beats. And I said, Jim, is that on the one? And they said James Brown made being on the one famous. Is that relatively true?
Yes, it was on the one, but I was just doing kind of, if I may say this, an au fait thing about being on one and being on two. This is on two. See how it swings a little better?
Right.
This is be on one.
And see, that's the thing for me with music that I never grasp. Now, when it comes to math, I can count in my head. I'm really good at computers, always have been, as you, but all of you know
Yes.
from my past. But the notion of music, numbers, metrics, that's the one thing I just never got, Jim. So
Connection between the intellect and the
emotions.
emotions, Richard. The intellect and the emotions gives us that.
And I'm a musicologist, I call myself. Not a musician, but I love music, and I've got a vast library of not just songs in my head from growing up, but I know the lyrics, I realize, to at least 1,000 songs. One of the shows we did a couple years ago was Jerry Bell's R&B Soul Classics. Jerry Bell, you might know him from Daz Band, the great
Yes.
group New Birth.
Yeah.
He's back out on tour with Daz Band. He's got a concert coming up
Great.
at the Wiltern. You guys are getting tickets. But Jerry and I would get together in here, do this show for 2 hours. We've had the great Verdine White in here, Larry Finger's Dunn, Ralph Johnson, Al Jarreau, Frida Payne, great musicians. And so as a musicologist, I could relate to their music, and I know the lyrics, like I said, to thousands of songs. But that whole counting of music is what makes you people differently. And I think Terry made it a very interesting point, is that I don't think musicians really quite get what the other side of that sound is to us as the consumers and listeners. How it changes our lives, how it is the soundtrack of our lives. A song can take you back, recreate emotions, the whole nine. And I've often wondered, do musicians understand the impact and the power that has on us? Because you guys are just so, geniusly creating it from the other side of that instrument or microphone. But we out here are the ones who are the consumers and lovers of it to such a great degree.
Some do and some don't, Richard. What I'm saying is we always try and share what we're feeling at the moment with the audience.
You do an excellent job with it.
May I give you a compliment, please?
By
You're
all
talking
means.
about rhythm. Your voice has a great rhythm to it.
He has the best voice.
And here's the funny thing. I would be on the show with Jerry Bell, and that's an interesting comment, Jim. I'm going to really take that to heart, as I did with the comment your wife made about our Pinch Me moment that's coming soon. And I'm in it right now, I swear to you. But despite my voice and the rhythm of it, I can't sing a lick. I used to get bagged on so much on Jerry's show. They would never let me sing nothing.
You make beautiful music as a radio host, Richard.
Thank you very much. I thought I would find my place in life eventually. Alayna, why don't you take us to the break?
Oh, I totally forgot. Okay, this is Alayna's Beauty Talk and
She's
more.
she's become a listener today.
I am. I'm having the best time because I'm a little under the weather, so I'm thrilled that you're doing the show with me. We will be. Oh God, you got me all off. You
That's
take
all
us
right.
out.
I'll take us out. You're listening to Alayna's Beauty Talk and More with the inimitable Alayna Zwick and her incredible guests, Terry Tilton, Jimmy Stewart, live in the studios of LA Talk Live. We'll be right back after this quick commercial break. Don't go away.
You have got to pay the price if you know what I mean. Yeah. Telling everybody out loud, oh, how a girl becomes so dry. When I thought that there was nothing left, I do believe
We know there are many choices in internet radio, and the staff and host of LA Talk Live would like to thank you for choosing the internet's hottest destination for the most eclectic sound and invigorating talk. This is LA Talk Live. We are more than just talk.
Women now make up 37% of the workforce, changing their role forever.
Harvard Medical School has now opened its doors to new female applicants.
The first woman is now in space.
The majority of last year's doctorate degrees were earned by women.
We've come so far, but our news is changing for the worse. More women die from heart disease and stroke than men, even though it can be prevented. Make a change at GoRedForWomen.org today. Brought to you by the Ad Council and the American Heart Association's Go Red for Women.
Hi, this is Alan Azoulay with Azoulay Media Productions. I'm really excited to bring you Groove to the 70s, an indoor live concert event playing Saturday, March 7th, 2015, featuring Smooth Sounds of Santana and Creedence Relive, two of the best tribute bands in America. Tickets are only $29, part of which will benefit Honorable Recharge, a wonderful foundation, nonprofit assisting combat veterans. Get your tickets now at latalklive.com or Facebook 70s Groovin', and stick around for the after party with our LA Talk Live DJs Veneric Marshall and Mario Alvarado, spinning great tunes that will take you back. And check out the option to purchase a VIP ticket for a vet. So come to the Old World Village, conveniently located just off the 405 freeway and Beach Boulevard in Huntington Beach for this memorable evening. Bring your friends or that special someone. I hope to see you there.
Hi, this is Starlet Quarles, and I'm inviting you to join us every Wednesday from 5 to 6 p.m. The Dialogue, Real Talk, Real People. Join us as we discuss the topics that are relevant to today's generational leaders. So don't forget to tune in to The Dialogue, Real Talk, Real People, every Wednesday from 5 to 6 p.m. right here on latalklive.com. You can also catch us on iTunes Radio R&B, Live 365, Radio Flag, and now Stitcher Radio. Or watch and listen directly at latalklive.com. Reality radio handcrafted for your listening pleasure. This is LA Talk Live, and we are more than just talk.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Alayna's Beauty Talk and More, heard every Wednesday, 12 p.m. Pacific, exclusively here on the world leader in internet broadcast. This is LA Talk Live, where it's more than just talk. And in the background, the sounds of the one and only music legend, jazz guitar phenom, Jimmy Stewart, from his CD, Memorabilia, the #1 track, Rainbow. I dig it a lot.
Can
Alayna,
Richard have that? Can you leave that CD
Sure, I
here?
can.
Well, it would certainly behoove you to, Jim, because we're an ASCAP BMI CSAC authorized licensed station. So when we play this music, after I get the metadata and all that stuff, you'll get royalties.
Yay, we love that.
Gotta love royalties, right? I'd love to visit that conversation with you when it comes to radio and royalties. I just want to give this a little bit more of a listen, though. Check this out.
Sure.
Amazing. Our listeners are going to love this. When Terry and I reunited on Alayna's show a couple of weeks back, maybe a month or so ago, Jim, she told me you were still making music, have some great music out there, but I've never, if I had a CD before, as we had a headshot of you in Cafe Mac before, it's all gone back to the planet. I don't know where it is, in other words. But this was the first time I've really had a real chance to not only listen to your music, but share it with our audience now that we're here in broadcasting.
And tell how big our audience is.
Well, over 6 million listeners and viewers a month. People can watch, listen. They can go back and watch on demand. It all aggregates out to 6 million, pushing 7 million, but I like to keep it conservative. But the ability to be able to share this, I said to Terry, since the beginning, when we started the station, I only started with one show, and I realized, but I've got 24-hour access, so I better start making up some shows to go along with the, schedule. So one of the first shows I came up with was from my favorite genre of music, and that's jazz, and I did a thing called Jazz and Joe, a better way to sweeten your morning brew. And it was a morning show. My idea was to capture a listening audience who is at their desk by 9, but working on their second cup of coffee by 10. And maybe at their job, they could put an earbud in and listen to us through iTunes Radio and listen to some great jazz. This is definitely, if you don't mind, going to become a part of that morning program. And maybe we can encourage Jim to do some radio with us. That would be really cool.
I don't think you'd have to twist his arm very far.
I don't think so either. I think he's
he loves the studio. The first thing he said, this is a great space. And he knew the mics, the type of mics we had here. So he's right at home in this studio.
Once again, Jimmy Stewart, Memorabilia is the CD, Rainbow, the #1 track from that CD.
And
Go
where
check
can
that
they
out.
get
Yeah,
that?
where can they get that, Jim?
Or Terry.
This is recorded in Los Angeles, and I used some key players. One player was Don Grusin. The other player was David Benoit.
Wow.
David Benoit. Really?
Yes.
It's on this. Oh, my God. I got to check
yeah.
the liner notes. One of my favorite jazz.
David is one of my, I guess if I could say it, proteges.
Absolutely. Jimmy, David was 19 years old, 18
Yes.
years old, something when Jimmy met him. And I love to tell the story, but he was, and you can interject because you lived the story. I wasn't there, but he was musical directing for Lainey Kazan, and they were getting ready to go on the road with Mercer Ellington Orchestra.
And did you say Lainey Kazan?
Lainey Kazan. He was
Boy.
with Lainey for 5 years.
It surely dates me. I remember her.
I do too.
And the piano players she was hiring apparently were not quite your taste.
What she had done, if I may take over, Terry, she kept bringing in these pianists, and I knew with all of them that going out with the Mercer Ellington Orchestra with pianists like that is not going to be good for her. So somebody gave me a tip. There's this young player, and I called him, and he was out on a job. I said, call me back at the Playboy Club. It was about 2 o'clock, and I was still waiting. No pianist. We were leaving the next morning. So I get this young man on the phone. I ask him one question. Who do you listen to? He said, Bill Evans. I said, you're hired.
That makes sense.
Yeah, but so anyway, Lainey wanted to know who's the pianist. And I kept pushing him to the side. The reason why I did that is because when I got to get on the airplane, David's dad drove him to the airport, And I thought that was David. So I walked up to this gentleman my age and I shook his hand and I said, "So glad to meet you, David." He says, "I'm not David, I'm Bob. This is my son, David." I looked at this long-haired beach kid. I said, "Oh my God, how am I gonna pull this out?" So I told him, I said, "Don't sit near me in the airplane, sit in another place. I'm gonna sit next to a guy who's a businessman with attaché case in his lap." So I sat near that guy, and he's looking all over all his papers. And Laney from first class had her lady personal assistant come back to meet the pianist. Said, "No, don't have him come up front yet, because I didn't want her to see the long-haired fellow. She would have been freaked, and we're stuck in an airplane at 20,000 feet. My God, there's no way to get anybody else." So then I said, "David, when we get out of the airplane," first of all, let me cap off that other end of the story. So she went back and said, "He looks really good. He looks fine. He's in his attaché case studying the scores." So when we got off the airplane, I told David, I said, don't get in the vehicle with me at all." And they had cars for us there to drive to the rehearsal. So from that point, I said, "David, just pretend that you're just kind of a weirdo, walking around." So then we reached. He did that. She kept thinking that her pianist was going to be with a attaché bag. And I called the rehearsal. I said, 1 hour with the band, me alone with the band, always works. So I said, "David, what I want you to do is don't read anything. I just want you to sit there and play. Play what you hear." So we went through the introduction first to the orchestra, and then we went to the first count-off, first tune, and he just sat and listened and didn't play. And I knew I was in good shape. So then we went through the next tune, and he played some nice little tasty right-hand licks like Bill Evans would do. I said, "Wow, that's going to make it." So Laney comes in, and I can see her in the back. I can still see her today. She said, "Who's that?" I said, "Laney, that's your pianist." So I said, David gave him the wink of the eye. The band went nuts. They loved it. You know how jazz men can get. I mean, they were on my side all the way. So we went through the next tune, and he played beautifully. He had the touch, so you could hear the full orchestra. But the tendency with many of those pianists she was sending in, they're used to being show pianists, so they're filling everything up, and it covers up all the beautiful writing that it's done by the arrangers with the horns and strings and so on.
And they stayed together for a while, huh?
Yes.
David was Jimmy's pianist in his band for many years, and Jimmy was truly his mentor, and set him along his way, and would tell a little story about David's mom. And
David's mom kept saying to me, I should say, she kept saying, "Make my son a star." I said, "I will. Just have him watch me and do what I do." So when he made his first record, I looked at the score for the orchestral part. I said, "That looks fine. Why don't you do this little change here?" Had a pencil out before it went to the copyist, changed a couple of notes, which opened it up real nicely. So from that point on, he started to take off in his career.
He's been a dear friend for many, many
Yes.
years, and it always touches our hearts that whenever we've gone to see him perform somewhere, or we've been, somewhere where he's, where he is, he always makes it a point to recognize Jimmy and acknowledge him for the part he played in his life and his career. And that always warms my heart, that it's just, you get a big smile, that, you know that you've done good work in helping mentor younger, players, younger people in the business.
Well, that's what life is supposed to be.
Yeah.
You're still mentoring people. Jimmy's still mentoring
Always.
people. Richard and I are still mentoring people. I mean, that's what makes our lives so important.
That's what we do when we become the butterflies out of the cocoon and we're the old ones that can help teach the young ones.
Yeah, I mean, I get people coming up to me, how do you look so good? I want to look like you when I get your age. And, we give them advice, and then it's up to them. But it's really important to pass that on.
May I give some advice?
Yes.
Since I had my stroke, my voice is a little out of sorts today, but I know I'm coming across fine because I usually can do it.
Yeah, you sound beautiful.
Clear, Jim,
so anyway, thank you very much for the compliment. But here's what I was going to say. What I learned from my stroke once I became the other side, with the handicap side, I learned so much. It's the first time I enjoyed my music, if you can believe that, because I was always so critical and trying to go over the top all the time. It's the first time I've really enjoyed my music.
Do you listen to it a lot in your home?
I will, yes.
That's nice.
And I'll watch my golf tapes.
Do you watch your golf tapes?
Sure I do.
Oh, how exciting.
I'm writing a couple of books on golf. I'm writing on that swing that I was teaching you, Richard. It's called the single pivot swing.
You going to give him an advance copy?
Sure I will. Absolutely signed.
I'm putting up some pictures right now, Jim, of you in your other profession as a golfer. One question real quick. Did you ever think to go professional in golf?
Well, at one time, I think I did, but somebody talked me out of it who was very smart in doing that, because it was actually Jimmy DeMeritt, the famous golfer, good friend of Ben Hogan. I was a young man, and he loved music, and I loved golf, and I couldn't get him to talk about golf. He talked about music all the time. He wanted to be a professional musician.
We had a dear friend of ours who's a PGA pro, and he's down in Palm Desert. He started the College of the Desert golf program, very hugely successful. And what most people remember of Callaway clubs, Tony's putter that he designed was the beginning of Callaway golf.
Is that right?
He sold... Callaway caught wind of this club that they had, and he took a look, and they sold the the putters, and that gave birth to Callaway Golf. So Tony loves to sing, and we were down there visiting. Jimmy was doing a show down there, and he'd take lessons and play golf with Tony during the day. And Tony looks at him one day and he said, "Jimmy, man, I'd do anything." Jimmy looks at him rather, he says, "Tony, I'd do anything to have your golf swing." And Tony looks at Jimmy and he said, "It's yours. Give me your talent."
Jimmy, I want to go back to the musical history of Jimmy Stewart. Why jazz?
Because jazz was a good blend of classical music and the blues, and that's what I really wanted to do.
What influenced you in that direction, though? Why classical music? That might be obvious, but the blues. Where'd you grow up? I forget.
Well, I was born in the Presidio of San Francisco. I won't tell you the year, but I was born there. And on base, we had Italian prisoners who used to do the lawns and take the garbage out and all those things. They would have MPs with them with arms in case they wanted to run off, but they never ran off. But they always were singing when they were working, and great, and they played mandolins and banjos, and I was fairly close to where they were billeted, where they lived. So I started going down there and listening to them, and they started showing me some licks and things. But already there was a guitar that made its way into the house, an old Stella guitar from Sears and Roebuck. And I saw it, and I just started going with it. I don't know why I did.
Are you a fan of Django Reinhardt?
Oh, God, who isn't?
Yeah. We had a broadcaster here. Alayna's very familiar with him. His name is Josh Lane. He did a show called Here's to Your Health. We wish him well. He's on another venture doing some other TV stuff now. Josh's theme song was Django Reinhardt, and I'd never even heard the name before. I don't even understand how. And I thought, okay, that's maybe some little-known jazz guy. But wow, I like the licks of the guitar and the way it sounds. Makes me feel good. Never occurred to me how famous this guy was and how legendary he was. Recently, I pulled up from Hulu a documentary about the music and influence of Django Reinhardt's music, and I had a a musician in here the other day. I was playing some music, Stefan Grappelli.
Great.
And I said, wow, come on in and let me see how much you know about music. Who is this? He said either Django Reinhardt or Stefan Grappelli. I'm like, wow, you're good. And he told me even more about Django, but I haven't finished the documentary yet. But I'm fascinated by that whole era of music because it sounds more piccolo-ish or mandolin-ish, or because there's so much precision to the stroking of, the chords on a guitar. What is his influence? I mean, what's his claim to fame? What made him so famous?
His feel and his unabandonment on the fretboard. He'd play anywhere. You never could count on where he was going to go. Surprises like every player should have in his solo work. Surprises for the audience.
Excellent.
He was great at that.
He's playing the fire too.
Yes.
The fire?
Django. His fingers.
You explain it then. It's not.
The fire.
Django Reinhardt.
No, the fire. Oh, the fire. I'll explain it. What she was talking about is a very misfortunate thing that happened to Django. Django, as a young man, married a young gypsy girl, probably 14, 15, and they were traveling in a show, and what they would do is they'd have plastic flowers for the grave sites that they made. So something happened in the fire. Something happened in the trailer that they were in, and it caught fire. And Django lost his young wife in the fire. But by trying to go back and getting her, he burnt his left hand so that it was almost inoperable. So he was very, very depressed. And the doctor said, we're going to give you therapy. You work on playing. So he basically only played with the three fingers of the left hand. And the hand was very, very distorted.
So,
looking.
Was that the hand that was on the fret?
Yes. That's remarkable.
Wow.
So where he made up for it was in his ability to pick and find the notes and his speed with this hand here. Wow. But still, when he played chords, it was amazing. He would use parts of that hand. I'd show you my left hand, but I'm hiding it somewhat. Because that's the one that's affected from the stroke.
Mm-hmm.
In a way, I feel like I'm Django, but I can't get up there and get going again. So I'm writing a lot of music.
Now, do you sing also?
I can. Everybody asks me that.
So I'm not alone. So
No,
do
you're
you
not.
ever sing?
Yes, I have sung. And on a recording that will come out with the book Magic at
Magic at Midnight. Music at Midnight.
I
It's
do
magical music.
Yeah, I like to write lyrics too, also.
That I knew. You had something you wanted to read. Is now a good time to read it?
Sure. We're segueing into Music at Midnight, and there's so many
Come up to the mic.
incredible stories that I just love. But this is one in particular that it's always fun for me when I tell it to see people's jaws drop after I finish the story. So I'm going to share it with you. Picture this for a moment. 1967 San Francisco. Some of us were, around at that time, some not, but anybody can recognize San Francisco in the 60s. And
I was around. My mother would let me go there, though.
this was the night before the Summer of Love, and Bill Graham owned two clubs. It was called Fillmore West and Fillmore East. One was in the East Coast, and Fillmore West was in San Francisco. And San Francisco was a musical hub. Well, there's a week's performance there, and they had this incredible young guitarist that was all the rage, young man by the name of Jimi Hendrix that was opening the show at Fillmore that week. And the second act and the middle act for the run of the show was none other than Jimmy Stewart and Gabor Szabo. And the final act for that week for the show was split because one of the artists was only able to be there half the week. So half of the week they had Janis Joplin, the other half of the week they had Jefferson Airplane. One of the young men who was there almost every night witnessing this experience was a young musician himself, Carlos Santana. All of this would come back around again. Carlos was a huge Gabor fan and used to listen and actually there's a cut on this album called Gypsy 86, which was a fictitious meeting of Gabor and Carlos. Carlos always wanted to play with Gabor. Never happened. And so Jimmy decided to make that happen. And of course, all the guitar parts are Jimmy. But 1986, we were up in San Francisco performing, and Jimmy had just come out with this album, and we wanted to get a copy to Carlos because of the song on it. And next thing I know, I'm being given Carlos's phone number and asked to call him at home. So here I am sitting, calling Carlos, and I'm having this conversation, having to pinch myself. And he says, well, I'm coming down to L.A. to play at the Wiltern Theater. Can Jimmy come play with me? I'd love for him to play with me in concert. And I'm like, yeah. I said, he's finishing up an engagement up here, but we can make it for the Friday concert. He said, so I've got 2 shows. Be here at such and such a time. I'll have my manager get hold of you, give you all the details, and can't wait to see him Friday night. So we were up in San Francisco. We got up early that morning, drove back down to L.A., got Jimmy all ready and prepared and picked his guitar, and off we went to the Wiltern. And it was amazing. And we're in the backstage, and Jimmy goes into the dressing room. I'll let you tell the story of you and Carlos.
Well, he invites me into the dressing room, and I thought, wow, I brought a couple of charts here. Do we want to play my charts? He said no. He said, I hear that you're a parachute musician. I can drop you in anywhere and you can play with anyone. So I'm not going to tell you what we're playing. I'm not even going to tell you what key. So then he tells the stage manager, who has a written show out for lighting and so on, and he has this tune that I don't know what it is. I said, Carlos, can you tell me at least the key? He said, no, Jimmy, I hear you're a parachute musician. So that cut does appear on the internet. It's Jimmy Stewart with Carlos Santana.
I'm going to look that one up, Jim.
Yes, you should. You got to hear that one. So it was wild.
It's Love Is You, and it was amazing. They also did, they played Breezin' together, which was awesome. But yeah, you can go on YouTube and hear the other song. But Carlos just said, I don't know, Jimmy, we'll figure it out when we get there. And boy, did they.
Wow.
It was awesome, and it was such a treat. And more importantly, it was like Carlos at that point was, saying to me, he said, I really finally get Jimmy. I get what he's doing. Oh, my God, he's amazing. Why didn't I understand this sooner? But I get it now.
Wow.
So,
All right, what were you going to read before we have to go to break?
That was the story I was gonna tell.
All right,
And
now read what you were going to read.
Well, since you're asking me to do that, there's a little something that Jimmy wrote, and I want to share it with you because it's really poignant and I think sums up him and his life and career and his passion for this thing we called music.
Go.
The music never ends. I've spent my life in this wonderful world of music. Its magic nurtured all my needs, emotions, creativity, and wonderful world of friends who were so unique. One thing has kept us all together is the feel of love and ununiqueness that engulfs us in the mysteries of music, sound, and frequencies. We give up our lives and souls to be part of this beautiful thing, music. Thank you, God, for giving me that gift.
I think that deserves a round of applause.
That was amazing. That just brought chills to me.
And this is going to be part of the book?
Absolutely.
The beginning or the last? You don't know.
I
yet.
don't know. I think we're going to improvise. That's what jazz artists do, isn't it? Improvise?
It's also a little fear because you're always trying to top yourself. So what will happen, this will go in the bucket of things that are going to go in the book, and I'll resort them.
And I'm told that that's how a book gets written. One of the things, great blessings of working at Cafe Mac, I met a lot of authors because it's right in the heart of Hollywood and writers. And I said, I've got a book in me. And the best ones always told me, just let it out. Sort it later. Yeah. All right, let's go to break. Alayna, you take us.
Okay, I'll take you out. All right, you have been listening to the latest Beauty Talk on LA Talk Live. We are here with the famous Jimmy Stewart and his amazing wife, Terry Tilton Stewart. And when we come back, we're going to kind of wrap up this show. I can't even believe an hour's gone by. This was such an amazing show. So stay tuned, everybody. We'll be right back. This is Alayna's Beauty Talk and more on LA Talk Live. We're more than just talk.
And again, from Jimmy Stewart's Memorabilia CD, this is track number 7, Gypsy 86. Enjoy. We'll be right back.
We know there are many choices in internet radio, and the staff and host of LA Talk Live would like to thank you for choosing the internet's hottest destination for the most eclectic sound and invigorating talk. This is LA Talk Live. We are more than just talk.
Hi, this is Alan Azoulay with Azoulay Media Productions. I'm really excited to bring Groove to the 70s, an indoor live concert event playing Saturday, March 7th, 2015, featuring Smooth Sounds of Santana and Creedence Relive, two of the best tribute bands in America. Tickets are only $29, part of which will benefit Honorable Recharge, a wonderful foundation, nonprofit assisting combat veterans. Get your tickets now at latalklive.com or Facebook 70s Groovin'. And stick around for the after party with our LA Talk Live DJs Veneric Marshall and Mario Alvarado, spinning great tunes that will take you back. And check out the option to purchase a VIP ticket for a vet. So come to the Old World Village, conveniently located just off the 405 freeway and Beach Boulevard in Huntington Beach for this memorable evening. Bring your friends or that special someone. I hope to see you there.
Hubert's Lemonade, tasty, refreshing, sweet, and tart. Happiness in a bottle. Visit Hubert's Lemonade at hubertslemonade.com. Once again, that's hubertslemonade.com. Happiness in a bottle. Xavier Tees and Tots, groundbreaking fashion, forward street smart designs. Tees and Tots for men, women, and boys. Visit XavierUSA.com. Once again, that's XavierUSA.com.
Hi, this is Dick and Sharon, inviting you to join us every Monday at 3 Pacific for LA Progressive Live.
Join us as we cover the progressive landscape both locally and across the nation.
So don't forget to tune in to LA Progressive Live every Monday at 3 Pacific.
Exclusively on latalklive.com. You can also catch us on iTunes Radio R&B, Radio Flag, TuneIn Radio, Live 365, AHA Radio, TiVo Radio, and Apple TV Radio.
Or just watch and listen directly at latalklive.com and LA Progressive Live. Reality radio handcrafted for your listening and viewing pleasure.
This is LA Talk Live and LA Progressive Live. We are more than just talk.
Welcome back to Alayna's Beauty Talk and more. This has been an amazing show. Richard came up with a good title because this is a grandma show. I'm doing Grandma Wears Makeup show every fourth Wednesday of the month. So Richard came up with a good title, Grandma Wears Makeup and Grandpa Plays the Guitar.
Yeah.
You know, which is amazing. You are an amazing musician. And Terry, I mean, you managed him. Look how far you brought him. I mean, you've been married how many years now? I ask you that question. You always make the same face.
We got together in '84. We got married in 1988. As I like to say, thank God I only married one client. So yeah, we've been together over 30 years, and we've been married now, probably going on 27 years this year. So it's a long time, and I'm wife number 4. Okay, so I think that speaks for itself.
Wow. But it's yeah, you're done. You're done. But, you know, that's how life of musicians are, you know. They change so rapidly. Instances changed, you know.
Well, it worked for us. I mean, there is an age difference between us, but when he was on the road, I was working. So we worked together as a team, and we really made a great team, you know, through all those years. And
you still make a great team.
We do. We're you know, and so it really, I'll never forget. It was so funny. We were doing NAMM is the National Association of Music Merchants. It's a huge conference they have every year in Anaheim, and the summer one's in Nashville. But Jimmy was there performing a few years back prior to the stroke, and we had this really young group of musicians who were amazing that were performing with him, and you see everything from the hottest girls on the planet to the craziest hair colors to you name it. And the guys are all like looking at what was passing them by the stage. And Jimmy stops himself for a moment. And he says, "Oh, I better watch myself. I'm here with my wife." And I looked at him and I said, "Excuse me? No, this weekend you're here with your manager. Have fun." You know, it's like, I know at the end of the night where we're both going to be, but it's like he's got it. You know, that's part of his work. If he doesn't have girls hanging on him and sitting on his lap, it's all part of the deal.
And you know what? That's why it worked, because you understood it.
Absolutely.
You know, if you don't understand that lifestyle, then you take it as a threat.
You know, I would tell women for years, and I said, whether it's a musician, an actor, an artist, anybody that I refer to as a creative, I said, if you're not willing to resign to being the mistress, it's not going to work. I said, his wife, his life is that instrument. That guitar went in bed with him. Trust me. It's just, that was attached at his hip. That was an appendage of his body. That was his true love. And if I wasn't willing to recognize that I was second in that position, then it couldn't work. And that's what I think why so many of these relationships fail, because they get caught up in, well, what about me, and I'm not getting paid attention to, and you're getting all the attention. Well, they're supposed to get all the attention. That's what they're there for.
That's who they are. That's what they live for, is the attention.
Exactly.
That's what they live for.
It's worked for us, and I'm okay being the mistress. It works really well.
Yeah. I think it's fine. You know, a lot of people couldn't talk like that in a million years. They would think you were crazy. How could she do that? And I think it's so smart. You can just have such a nicer life.
Well, it
works.
It works, and you know, I'm very, as Jimmy will tell you, I'm very independent, and so I need my space to do what I do, and the fact that he needed a lot of his space to be creative and do what he does, it
You're
works.
both still creative. You're both still doing projects. You've not stopped.
Oh, I think he'll be with hand on computer or music paper and pencil in hand, and me the same.
Now you
with the
can
telephone,
still write with your other hand,
yes,
right?
I can. Yes.
So you're still writing.
Absolutely.
And you're still exercising, actually.
Every day. I said it 3 times. One more, every day.
Me too.
There's one other thing I wanted to add
Sure.
to our conversation, and that is what I found out after I had the stroke. Life is a strange movie or drama. What I did is I look back on my life. It's a journey attached to time and feelings and emotions that are pictures in your mind.
And what did you discover?
Discovered I have a good life. So this is part of life. The joy in this, in having this happen to me, is that I can look at my life. So
it slowed you down.
Slowed you down. But anyone out there thinks it's a total negative, try and look at it the other way. You need to keep yourself going with goals and interest, learning, and exercise, and drink plenty of water.
That's my life.
Okay, I thought it would be.
That's my life. And I try, as a walking coach and a trainer, that's what I try and instill in everybody. Because those are just easy things to do. You don't want to wait till it's too late. You can start right now.
Well, and, truly, when I think about it and people say, what age, if you could go back to be a certain age, I said, right where I am, I said, there's so many things that happen along the way. And just because there's so much more you can experience after 50 because you have the experience, you have the knowledge. Hopefully we've learned lessons along the way. And God knows our Rolodex is certainly way fatter than it was in our 20s. So I think that it's an amazing process to get to a point where you can appreciate younger people and what they're about and that enthusiasm. And you can also appreciate those in your own age range and those that are older that you can still learn from.
It's amazing. Yeah. We never stop.
And it's like, Grandma's hot, hip, and happening, honey. And Grandpa, damn, he's making some good music.
Grandpa's making some great music, and you guys look amazing. I mean, and you're doing your medium. You're busy all the time. You guys don't really stop. The stroke has not really slowed you down, other than maybe playing the guitar and kind of readjusting your life, but it has not slowed you down.
As long as I can write, I'm happy, because basically I love to compose music, serious music, which I do have a Concerto 1, Concerto 2, which some of it can be viewed on the internet. Jimmy Stewart or James Stewart, Concerto number 2 or Concerto number 1, and hear what it's about. Wow. Hear my writing. So I'm working on number 3 right now.
And how long are they?
About 24 minutes.
Wow.
30 minutes, that's a lot of writing.
Wow.
That's a film score length, basically.
Did you ever write for film?
A few, yes.
Wow. I think you've done it all.
Yeah, documentaries. Are
you guys going to do a documentary together with them, his story, and put the music together?
Somebody, a producing partner I'm working with on some other things, different from this producer, but, I was talking to him about it, and he was like, perked up immediately. So we're hoping soon to maybe put together like a little sizzle reel, a little trailer, and outlining it so that we have something in which we can show. But I really feel that it would serve well as a documentary, because there's so many people still living that we could bring on board, be it Linda Ronstadt or Alayna or Dave Benoit, or any number of people that, can talk about that experience and what it was about, and that were there and lived it. And, it's not so much as I say about Jimmy and his career as it is where music, the journey that music took him on, and all the amazing people he met and the places he got to be, and the experiences that, you can't even duplicate if you wanted to.
Can't duplicate them.
There was a great, for a couple of years, a jazz jam and golf tournament that they had in Palm Desert. And it was awesome. I mean, all the guys who loved golf, we had Joe Williams, we had Ray Brown, we had Jimmy, we had Conti Condoli. I mean, you talk about the best of jazz, especially West Coast jazzers. I mean, they were out there playing golf during the day and having this amazing improvised jazz jam at night. I mean, they all just went up there with their axes and started to blow. And it was beyond. And, so many of these guys are no longer with us. And truly the way I feel is if you don't document these pieces of history, they're lost. And as long as we can grab these stories from people that were there, that lived it, that experienced it, the way I like to say this too is like everything the tabloids would have loved to have gotten their hands on and didn't hear those conversations, you're gonna know about from these stories in this
Terry,
book.
don't go any farther, please. There's some stories I can't tell.
I know they'll say, "Wait a minute, we wanted that story," but there are plenty of good ones, and it'll keep you excited and learning something new and saying, "Wow, I never knew that," or I never understood this aspect of whatever. So I'm excited about it.
Terry,
let me just ask one. When do you think this documentary or the books will be coming out? In the next few years?
Yes. Oh, yes, definitely.
So everybody, we'll keep you informed. We'll still be here.
I really like the way this show played out, Alayna, I got to tell you.
Me too.
Of course, today's format is Grandma Wears Makeup, and today's topic is, and Grandpa Can Sure Play an Axe. And, I stepped out, and as I came back in, I heard you all talking about how life is a continuum. At what point do you decide to stop living? I mean, stop doing stuff, stop having interest, stop trying new things? Never, right?
Absolutely.
And what I love most about today's show, because we really got to see this other side of Terry, and I heard her say this, hey, Grandma's hip, happening, and all of that stuff. And it's funny to hear her talk about the music business because this other passion about her comes out. And she talks like, a young woman, like, yeah, these cats came up and brought up their axe, and they all started jamming, and you hear the young, hip Terry Tilton, who managed all these bands, and the names you mentioned, Gabor Szabo. I didn't even know much about him other than, thank God for Philadelphia having a great jazz station back in the day, and all of this great music would be played. And I know I must have heard Jimmy's music played there as far away as Philadelphia. Yep. And the great names that the stories alone, oh my God, that would be the greatest documentary ever told from music and jazz.
Our first date, we went to Dante's, which was a phenomenal jazz club that no longer exists.
Here in L.A.?
Yeah, I was on Lakeshore Boulevard.
I love Dante.
And our first date, took me for a little Mexican to his favorite Mexican place, and then, of course, to Dante's. And, I'm hanging out with Shelly Mann, who just got finished playing drums, and my mother was a big jazz fan, and Joe Pass was her favorite until, of course, Jimmy. Wow. But I mean, I'm like, called her the next day, and I said, "You're not going to believe where I was and who I was hanging out with," and she almost plotzed at that moment. She's like, he said, "I'm on the next plane to L.A. When's the next night out with Jimmy?"
Terry, real quick, where were you born?
I was born in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Great place to grow up in the Midwest. I always take that with my heart. I love being a Midwestern girl.
What brought you out here to L.A.?
What brought me to L.A. was pursuing an acting career. I'd been acting since I was a kid. I got a degree from University of Arizona in theater and theater education and speech. I had the privilege of getting accepted and studying at ACT in San Francisco, which is the American Conservatory Theater. Was also an Interlochen alumni of a couple of years, which is a renowned performing arts camp and academy in northern Michigan.
A little taste of your IMDb, please.
Yeah, so I just have always, that's all I know. Entertainment's been in my blood since I was a kid. And I grew up, my mother was just heavily into jazz. She had a stint as a jazz performer at 19, took off and went on the road with a jazz group. My dad's oldest sister was a famous opera singer. So Mel Torme was a cousin on my mother's side. We had a lot of music, entertainment. I was exposed to that my whole life. So it was a natural for me. It was either New York or LA. And I said, I'm going to go to LA because that's where movies are and there's more opportunity. Who knew? back at the late 70s, I was a, redhead, and I was certainly a lot thinner then than I am now, but I was never this skinny little, drink of water. I had curves. And, they didn't know from curves in those days. So until Roseanne Barr, and then all of a sudden I was off doing something else. But I did comedy improv, which I pull that up every chance I get.
You got jokes, Terry. You got some jokes.
I got
show.
good one-liners. Let me find an opportunity. I'll give you a zinger. But what's interesting is how I ended up in music. I had a friend who was working with a small R&B record label. It's called Wheel Records in Lamont Dozier, which everybody may know
Absolutely.
from every major Motown song in history.
Holland Dozier Holland.
Correct. And just got their star on the Walk of Fame. And he said, we need some help at the label. Can you come over and help us? And I said, sure. Within a very short period of time, and based on my just, vibrant
Tenacity,
personality
yeah.
on the telephone, all of a sudden they're handing me saying, you're now the VP of sales and distribution. And I'm like, oh, really? And I didn't know. It's like shrink wrap. What's a shrink wrap? So I took myself over for a tour at the pressing plant. I learned everything there was to know about making a record, from the bag of vinyl pouring
Perry,
into the machines.
that's the way to do it. That's the way to do it.
It was amazing, and I learned by the seat of my pants. And all of a sudden, little did we know, we were about to have our doors broken down. I mean, there was a lot of stuff going on in the business at that time, and things that shouldn't be going on. And so I packed up my stuff and took my papers and said, I think I'm safer at home than in the office. And then I ended up working in other areas outside of entertainment for a while, which really honed my sales and marketing skills. And then when, I was a partner in a production company, which is when I met Jimmy. And so, flying by the seat of my pants, learning on the go is something that comes naturally for me. But as long as it's entertainment
Did your intuitiveness help, do you think?
Always. It's just, what I always like to say is that our intuition is never wrong. The only time it ends up being wrong is when we don't listen.
You're so right about that, Terry. I have another question, Alayna. Do you mind?
No, finish. I love this.
Allowing for the intuition, how titillated were you when you met Jimmy and went on that first date? I mean, how exciting must that have been for you with your background, your musical influences from your family, jazz? How fortuitous, I guess, is the right way
I have
to
to
question
say,
that.
Jimmy was so different from any type of guy I'd been with before, but I knew
And he
immediately.
still is, right?
Yeah, look, everything. But I knew immediately, I said, this is it. This is the man I'm going to marry. And I'm like, this is crazy. We'd been together a couple weeks. I had to go back to Wisconsin for my brother's wedding. And in the interim, discovered I had to have major surgery while I was there. And Jimmy just unbelievably just stepped in, took care of my bills while I was. I mean, it was just like, just jumped in and took care of things, and I in turn had just gotten. I said, I'm going to leave you the keys to my car, and he's like, why? I have my own. He had a great little Porsche, and he said, well, I don't need your car, and I said, I don't know, I just need to leave you my keys just in case, or start the motor. Well, while I was gone and in the hospital, his mother ended up having a major heart attack, and all of a sudden he had to drive up to Northern California and deal with that. And at that moment he said, would you mind, can I use your car? It'd be easier. I have to take stuff or may have to take stuff back. I don't have room in my Porsche. So there was a reason I left him the keys, And I remember being at my brother's wedding reception, and I'm in the bathroom with one of my aunts, and she was the matriarch. She was my dad's oldest sister. She was the opera singer. And I was saying something about Jimmy and just saying, yep, I know this is it. This is the one. And she's having a fit thinking I'm like now engaged and getting married. I said, Aunt Dea, we just met. I mean, we've just been 3 weeks going out, but I just feel it. I know it. And my mother used to tout. It was so exciting. She's like, most mothers would be absolutely appalled to have their daughter dating a jazz musician. Me, I'm thrilled. She was so excited. My parents just loved him. And what he did when I went home that trip, he puts together a whole press kit for me. He says, your parents need to know who I am and who you're seeing. And when I presented my parents with this press kit of his career and his pictures, and it was like, it was more than impressive. They're like, okay, so how quick do we tie the knot? Four years down the pike. It took 4 years, but he went to my parents and he said, look, I've had 3 Hollywood divorces. I can't deal with the 4th, so I need to make sure.
Alayna, may I?
Yeah, of course.
I've got something for you, Jimmy. When you met Terry, did you have that same inspiration? Did you feel in the right place at the right time? Because how lucky were you
Do I want
to meet this gorgeous redhead?
Do I want to live or die? Of course I did.
Oh, my God, you're making him blush, Richard.
Jimmy, one last question. In the waning hours of the show. In a generic sense, I would pose the question as how blessed do you feel? Because while I was outside making my phone call, I thought about you and I said, my God, for one man to live so much life and such a charmed life. I just thought about the fact that, okay, he's been married couple of decades, right? What, 20 years? You guys just met like 20 years ago when you were 18?
No, it was 84. So we've been together over 30 years.
Over 30 years.
Like 27.
So your success at that, your amazing success as a jazz musician and as a musician and composer, producer, your amazing success as a golfer, which is one of the toughest things to do in life. I call golf the great equalizer of all men.
Yes, you're
because
right.
great or small, I mean, whether a guy like Charles Barkley was a greater athlete or Herschel Walker could run the football faster or Babe Ruth could hit the baseball longer, golf makes all great athletes equal and when they get to the golf course inevitably.
All right, I have to add a beauty thing.
Okay, all right.
All right, and he's got a great head of hair.
Add that. But
you can't pass that up. The whole show, I've just been saying, he's got an amazing head of hair.
Let's just put up some pictures of Jim looking really good.
Yeah, he wanted to wear
shots.
his baseball cap, and I'm like, no, you got to show your hair.
Got to let those flocks flow. How blessed do you feel, man? Living such an esteemed life. You're a Hollywood legend, a living legacy. You guys are one of Hollywood's first and most enduring power couples in music. How blessed do you feel, my friend, as a
real blessed?
As a
I'll
young
tell
man?
you the key to it is my innate way of intuition, I guess, of putting myself next to great people.
So I got to ask you one more question, then I'm going to turn it back over to Alayna because you brought up the issue of intuition. Which one of you is more intuitive as a result of the decision to be together? I'll leave you with that question. Who's the most intuitive, you or her, when it came to meeting each other and keeping you together all these years? All right, so I will give it to Terry.
I think it's Terry.
We'll give it to Terry.
I actually
I'm
have
only
to throw it to
joking. It's
Jimmy
just a
because
joke.
he set up our meeting and pretended like he didn't, and it was just happenstance until later when I found out. So
he had his eye out.
He'd had his eye out, and I mean, I previously, it's like, when I, was having issues with the guy I was seeing, and we both got, left at the front step at about the same time.
That was
their
meant
loss.
to be.
And, I just, it was one of those things where you just, magic happens and.
Yeah, you guys always talk about magic.
But life, it's work. It's nothing comes easy, and you have your ups and downs. And
yeah, you both been through
sometimes
a lot
we need
together.
We need to slap on more makeup than other times to cover it up, but,
Yeah, there's
thank
a
God
lot
for
of great
that.
new makeup out there.
I know.
All right, bring it back to Grandma Wears Makeup. This was an amazing show. Richard, thank you so much for
It was truly my honor and
for
pleasure
doing
to be
this
on
show because, I'm in beauty, health, and fitness. You're really into music. So I am so thankful that you came on to do this show. It was just an amazing show for our archives here.
We need a
LA
part 2
Talk
of
Live.
this. I got to tell you, we need a part 2 of this. There's so many questions.
We
that I
didn't
have.
even touch the iceberg of
Yeah.
this. It's
Well, you just let us know when, and we'll be back. And
you guys are such naturals. It's just incredible.
Well, thanks. And just remember out there, Grandma's hip, hot, and cool, and Grandpa's playing his ass off.
And that's in the background, as a matter of fact. We're going to close the show out as I turn
Okay,
it
but
over to Alayna.
I'm just going to ask you one.
Tune for Bill and Jim.
Did you ever figure out where you can buy this CD? Is it on Amazon?
You can get it on Amazon. I'm sure Amoeba has some of Jimmy's music and records. I mean,
I
it's
love
not,
Amoeba.
Curly, obviously, as you know, with record labels and
right.
so on. Or,
but you can research it and find it.
Absolutely,
and you can come to LA Talk Live. I bet you Richard will do something.
And
with it.
I'd like to say, Richard, if you have a listener that gets strongly encouraged and has a great story, we'll actually give you a signed copy of it to give to that listener. So.
Excellent. Very good. We appreciate that, too. Listeners, you heard that here on LA Talk Live and Alayna's Beauty Talk and more. Terry Tilton, Jimmy Stewart putting it out there. You want a signed copy of this, hit us up. Just email me at richard@latalklive.com. It would be that easy and our honor.
Great.
Man, you guys, again, living legacy here in Los Angeles and Hollywood. So blessed to have you on the show. Wanted to talk about the music industry, maybe educate some of these young artists, how they can get their music on the radio, the difference between radio then and radio now.
What a great show.
We need a part 2 of this, absolutely.
What a great show that'll
be.
Take a whole show and
love to do
Yeah,
it.
that'll be you and Richard.
I'll tell you what we'll do. I'd like to put this on your plate. I know you guys are busy, but let me put this on your plate. I'd like to do a musicians town hall meeting. We'll do it as a live web broadcast as we do with all of our shows. Of course, it's always live to tape for folks who'll be able to go back and consume it. But I'd like to do a town hall with some great musicians to come in and talk about the music industry and how to help these young artists who we're leaving the music industry too. Again, not a musician, but a musicologist and one who's able to play great music through this great form of internet broadcast. We need to educate them and teach them how to reel the control of the music industry back into their hands.
I have to tell you, what drove me out of doing management in the way that I had done it for 25 years of the 30, but what I truly feel is a blessing for the musicians is the invent of the internet, and all the opportunities are there for them.
Thank you for saying that, Terry.
It's amazing. And so it was like, for me, it's like, they don't need me to do what I used to do, but God bless, they finally have an opportunity to get exposed. So to this day, I still get phone calls from young artists saying, oh, I need a manager. And my first question is, why? If you're calling me asking for that, then you're not doing what you need to do with all that's available to you to
here's
expose
part 2 of
yourself
this
in your
show. The
music.
fact of the matter is, Terry, the ones that I meet who seem to be smart and maybe very social network savvy don't get a clue. Don't have a clue, don't begin to understand the true business side of it. So really, there's still that space for you to help people even in that way as well, because that allows them to just be the artists that they are. They
Absolutely.
still just don't get it.
No, and there's ways that they can learn what they need to know so that they can seek out people that can help them do that, or know enough to protect themselves.
If you guys want to be guests on my town hall meeting, the musicians
we'll
town
be
hall
there.
meeting, we're going to be planning that very soon, coming up like early spring or something like that. Have you guys come back down.
Excellent.
I've got some excellent musicians that you guys probably already know or have made contact with who would definitely love to be a part of it as well. And that's my effort to help our next generation. You talked about giving back. This is what we do here on LA
That's
Talk
what
Live.
it's
And thank
about.
you
It's
guys.
the heart and
Thank
soul.
you
It's
guys.
like, if we don't take our youth and help direct them, mold them, encourage them, give them the right direction to take, then part of our purpose for being here is for naught. I mean, that's part
how
of who
I
we
feel.
are as the elder statesmen,
Yeah,
so to speak.
so
is to
important.
Help teach, encourage, and direct our youth.
And they definitely need it.
Thank you, Alayna, so much for allowing me to
Oh,
join
please.
you on this most momentous
with me
occasion.
a little bit under the weather and not
Okay.
really knowing that much about music, you made this show so amazing. Thank you.
Thank you, indeed. And to Terry and to Jimmy, thank you guys, man. It's been a great reunion. I'm going to let Alayna wrap out while I do some other duties, like take pictures of you guys while you're still on the mic. Have fun. Thank you once again. A great show today.
It was a great show. I
Thank you
love
so
being
much.
with Terry, and this is the first time I got to meet Jimmy. I heard so much about you. But next week we're going back to a beauty show, and actually I'm going to have amazing guests. They're still not totally confirmed, but it's all about eating healthy, organic, and really this year it's all about beauty from the inside out. So it's all about how to eat healthy, and I'm going to kind of gear it towards eating healthy snacks, for you, your family, because I'm a big snacker, and that's where you can gain a lot of weight. So it's all going to be about how to have healthy snacks and other things. So
Well, thank you so much, and
I love having you.
Thank you, Jimmy, for a lifetime of an amazing trip, an amazing
Well, thank you
journey.
very much for taking care of my career.
You've done an amazing job.
That was a privilege, let me tell you.
All right, Richard, do you have anything left to say? All right, we are going to close out the show because we're really running over time. So everybody, have a great week. Get outside, get some exercise, drink plenty of water, and I will see you next Wednesday at noon Pacific time. Say goodbye.
Bye.
Thank you for tuning into LA Talk Live and the Talk Live Broadcast Network, original reality radio, and crafted for your listening and viewing pleasure. This is LA Talk Live, and we are more than just talk. Stay tuned.